Good morning, NBA, NFL, sports fans. Your boy Nicky Stees is here. We're here for episode 2 of the 3-Point Blitz. Let's dive right into it.
Fasten your seatbelts for the realest Eagles and Sixers YouTuber! One who plays no clickbait and gets to the point! The myth, the legend, Nicky Stees! Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. I'm simply statue, think, and slate, dropping unrealistic mad 2K takes for the clip. Even though cats like that get views closer to the millie, never hear me preach, look on to Philly. Before you watch the Eagles all the way through the early 22, authentic talk, forget what others do. Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keep things real. The 24/7, 365 way. Sports content for the reals that feel the day.
Good morning, folks. It's your boy Nicky Stees here, back for episode 2 of the 3-Point Blitz, doing this on the Nicky Stees and Hardcore Sports Network channels. And last week, now we did this last week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today, we're doing this at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday. So for those of you guys wondering, I decided that Monday would be the better day to do this. So going forward for the immediate future, the 3-Point Blitz, each episode will be Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as opposed to Sunday night. So with that being said, welcome to episode 2 of the 3-Point Blitz. If this is your first time checking this out, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe. And also make sure to like and subscribe both to Nicky Stees and Hardcore Sports Networks, and make sure to leave a comment in the chat as well. Welcome, everyone is welcome to join in the chat. So here it is. If you haven't done so yet, here's the link to my channel. Subscribe to catch on my NBA and NFL related content. And here's the link to the Hardcore Sports Network. Make sure you sub it up there. So without any further ado, got a lot to talk about. Let's dive right into it. So first, we're going to actually start off, even though this is and I decided this is going to be a primarily NFL and NBA related podcast, we're going to start with something different. We're going to talk about a different sport a little bit. We're going to talk about the pugilistic arts in the boxing world, because over the weekend, the boxing world lost a legend, the former 2-time heavyweight champion, George Foreman, most remembered for his peak being at the same time period as the Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Ken Norton Sr. were active in the heavyweight division. So long story short, the late, great George Foreman passed away. So we're going to start this show off by talking about George Foreman, remembering him. Foreman was, you guys know, everyone knows the name George Foreman, whether you follow boxing or not. Everyone knows who George Foreman is. Got Chad. Hello, Chad. What's up? Hope you're off to a great start to your day. Thanks for stopping by in the chat. Always appreciate your support. Chad's been one of the loyal followers to content creators who do streams with the Hardcore Sports Network. So as always, thanks for your support. Hope you're having a great morning so far. And we're here talking a little bit about the late, great George Foreman, who just passed away over the weekend. like I said, well-known name, whether you follow boxing casually, you're a big-time follower, or you don't follow boxing, you know the name George Foreman. Everyone knows who he is. He was, beside a boxer, famous entrepreneur with the famous George Foreman grill, which sold over millions of copies, made over millions of dollars throughout the country, and was a great and very successful entrepreneur as well. The George Foreman, we all know about, for the boxing fans, we know his boxing career. We'll just do a brief recap of that. 1968 Olympic gold medalist at the heavyweight division, two-time heavyweight champion. First time he won it was at his peak in the 70s, defeating Joe Frazier, handing him his first professional loss in the process. Everyone that remembers that soundbite of Howard Cosell, the play-by-play announcer for that fight. Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! And George Foreman's 2-round annihilation of Joe Frazier. I went back and watched some highlights that Saturday night. I'm shocked they didn't stop the fight earlier, because by the end of the first round, Foreman had him beat. I don't even know why they brought him out for the second round. But back then, during that era, it was just the mindset of you fight on, you fight on, you fight on. Whereas nowadays in boxing, more or less something like that happens. Although, Mitch, if something like that happens nowadays, like that Foreman annihilation of Frazier, they would have stopped the fight in between the first and second round. But back then, before we were fully aware of CT and before we considered the long-term effects of brain damage, they let these guys go out there and get pulverized. And that's what happened there. That was George Foreman's main highlight. Also, he stopped the late, great Ken Norton Sr. as well during his first run as heavyweight champion. He's most remembered for the fight where he lost it the first go-around against Muhammad Ali in Zaire, in the fight now known as the Rumble in the Jungle. Infamously, Foreman was the heavy favorite to beat Ali. Foreman had already beaten Frazier and Norton, who Ali respectively had 2 fights with each Frazier and Norton up to that point. He split with both of them, won one, lost one with each. Foreman beat both those guys easily, so he was the heavy favorite. Where Foreman was dominating most of the fight, but Ali had the chin to take his shots, and he let Foreman punch himself out. The guy who was known for early finishes, who wasn't used to going long rounds, Foreman got tired mid-rounds. Ali took advantage of it and stopped him. And that was his most famous fight. But also, too, with Foreman, remember, he did step away from boxing for a little bit. He had a few more fights after the Ali fight. He won a few. Then he lost to Jimmy Young. He retired for a little bit. During his time away from boxing, he got into religion. And he also founded the George Foreman Youth Center, which is still active in Houston, Texas. He helped jumpstart that center at a vacant building. And at that center now, it's got a couple boxing gyms, a women's only workout room. It's got a basketball court inside of it. And it's got, from what I hear, it's affordable membership rates. I don't know the exact rates, but it's honestly a very popular attraction in Houston. It's still successful to this day. And then we all know he was a minister, he was a minister. He got into religion. And during that time, shortly got into religion, he was struggling to pay bills, and that led to him coming back to boxing. Early on when he came back, he was mostly fighting easy fights. His most notable win early on was against Jerry Cooney, who was a popular name in the early 80s. And then he fought Evander Holyfield in 1991, who was at that point the heavyweight champion. Holyfield did win by decision, but Foreman put up a hell of a fight, and he earned the respect of a lot of his critics that said, oh, he was just taking the easy fights for money. And then a few years later, he got another title shot against Michael Moore, who defeated Evander Holyfield, and Foreman in that fight at 45 won the heavyweight title for the second time, becoming the oldest heavyweight to win the heavyweight boxing championship. And at the time, the oldest boxer to win a championship in a weight class. That was surpassed in 2011 by Bernard Hopkins, who won a light heavyweight belt, I believe, at 46. But yeah, George Foreman made history. And there was the infamous line, it happened when Foreman stopped Moore in the 10th round. And play-by-play announcer for HBO at the time, Jim Lampley, confirmed where he got that line. He said he had been talking with Foreman, and George Foreman had told him practically some point late in the fight, he's going to set himself up, I'm going to catch him with a good shot and stop him. And Jim Lampley said as soon as Foreman landed that knockout sequence, he even admitted he didn't have anything in his mind for it because he thought for sure Foreman's going to lose this fight. There's no way he's beating this guy. This guy beat Evander Holyfield. This guy's in his 20s. So all Jim Lampley said, he said and admitted in an interview, all I could think about was the conversation where George told me he was going to pull off the win. And the first thought that came to his mind is, it happened. And that's where he said that infamous line. So Foreman defied the odds, winning another heavyweight belt at 45. And so he was a commentator as well for HBO Boxing during that peak era where guys like Oscar De La Hoya, Roy Jones Jr. were popular boxers in the sport. And he also, like I said, successful entrepreneur as well. Did phenomenal with the George Foreman grills. And all around, from what we hear a lot of people, he was an excellent human being too. He's one of those perfect examples of you don't judge somebody by how they make their money. Even though theoretically he fit the image of a barbaric person, the guy knocking out people to get money. But outside of boxing, he was one of the most humble and respectable people. So the one lesson we can learn from Foreman is don't judge people by how they make their money. If you judge them by the content of their character, because there's a whole lot more to a person in terms of how you judge them than just how they make their money. And Big George Foreman fit that mold. So rest in peace to the late, great George Foreman. Hope you're off to a better place now. Reunited with Ali and Frazier. With that being said, yep, rest in peace, Big George. Now, we're going to switch gears now to more what this podcast is going to be about. Primarily basketball and football related content, starting with some basketball content. We're going to talk about the Golden State Warriors. Now, we know the Golden State Warriors about a month ago, right around the trade deadline, acquired Jimmy Butler in a trade with the Miami Heat. Now, at the time, at first, you guys that followed me, especially if you were on the Pick and Roll podcast, you guys know I didn't think the Golden State Warriors would be the best fit for Jimmy. I thought the Houston Rockets would have been the best fit. But as we see now in the time since, it's working out well with the Golden State Warriors. So far, they're 16-3, and they've been making a big push for playoffs or to move up in the playoff seeding and possibly be contenders and make some noise in the postseason by now. Because you remember earlier in the season, Warriors were looking like a play-in team. They looked like they were doomed to be a play-in team. But since acquiring Jimmy Butler, they've proved me wrong. And turns out Jimmy Butler has fit in so far phenomenally with the Warriors. Currently, they're the 6th seed. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Now, they did lose on Saturday and fell a little bit short in their most recent outing. But as a team, overall, they've been playing a lot better. Jimmy Butler's found his groove with Steph Curry and company. And since then, they've been one of the best teams, both offensively and defensively. Now, on the defensive side, they've allowed only 107 points per game on average, which is a low by today's era standards. So he's also helped shape their offense and defense. Now, he hasn't been the most efficient shooter, but overall, his overall game with the Warriors has helped make that team better. He's blended well with Steph Curry, and they're looking like contenders. Now, they are sitting at the 6th seed, but hey, we still got about a whole month to go for the regular season. All we got to do now is see, hey, they could win some more games. They could work their way up, possibly 5 seed. 4 seed might be a long shot considering they're in a loaded conference, but they could work their way up to the 5 seed for sure if they continue to just win out. And right now, they're a team that they control their own destiny. They can just keep winning games. They can really they can move up, make some noise, and set themselves in perfect position for a great first-round matchup. Possibly win that. Maybe you have a bit of a favorable second-round matchup. And who knows? Maybe the Warriors can make a run. Now, for me, as far as this current run the Warriors are on, I feel like if they want to win out and get another championship, add a 5th ring to Stephen Curry's legacy, and for Jimmy Butler to finally get that ring, they got to strike now because we know Jimmy Butler's the type of player that he'll be on great terms with the team for a period of time. His teammates, he'll love where he's playing, but then over time, once things start going sour, Jimmy's relationship can fall apart with organizations. We've seen that throughout his career. That's ultimately why he was traded from the Miami Heat. Once things started to get a little sour, he started to distance himself from the team, and ultimately that set him up to be traded. But with that being said, though, in the time period since, Jimmy Butler himself in 19 games, he's averaging about 17 points. He's averaging 6 boards, 6.5 assists, and he's averaging a steal per game. So he certainly stepped up and improved. So he has helped improve that team, and you can see it in their win-loss record. He clicks well with Stephen Curry. He's on the same page with those guys. Now the Warriors are looking good as a team, but I feel like you got to strike now while the iron's hot if you're the Golden State Warriors, because Jimmy Butler is one of those, he's a short-term guy. If you're going to bring him in to try to help your team, he's the guy that's got to click and make it work immediately. He's got to do so early, because we know with Jimmy Butler, he's always one of those guys, kind of similar to a Terrell Owens in the NFL, where he'll start off on great terms with his team, but then he'll finish on bad terms, and he'll burn bridges on the way out. So for the Warriors, yes. Are they getting hot? Yes. Could they make some noise in the West? Absolutely. But they got to do so now, early, while Jimmy Butler's still on good terms with them, because we know the history. And now that's actually a perfect segue. And the reason why I say is because their last game on Saturday was against the Atlanta Hawks. In a game, they fell short. Now we're going to switch gears and talk about an Atlanta Hawks player. Now, some of you guys might not know it yet, but there is one Hawks player who made history last night in their team shellacking of my team, the Philadelphia 76ers, 132-119 yesterday. So Dyson Daniels, the guard for the Atlanta Hawks, well, here's what he did. He became the youngest player in NBA history to reach 200 steals. And he passed the all-time great point guard, the guy that's considered the god amongst all-time point guards, the standard bearer, Magic Johnson. Now, he's doing this at 22 years old. Now, Magic Johnson did do it at 22 as well, but he did it like midway through. Like he did like 22 and like 200-something days. Dyson Daniels is doing it like 22 years old, less than 70 days after turning 22. So by default, he's the youngest player now to reach 200 career steals, which for Dyson Daniels, that's a great feat. Now, this is a player who's not known to be the most efficient offensive player, but he certainly makes an impact on defense, and he's reached 200 career steals early in his career. And Dyson Daniels is easily one of the best defensive players in today's NBA, in an era where the NBA isn't known for great defense. It's not like the old days of the guys like the Dennis Rodmans, the David Robinsons, the Shaquille O'Neals, Hakeem Olajuwons, where these guys played physical ball at all times. So defense in today's NBA, it's not as common, it's not as frequent. But Dyson Daniels is one of the better defensive players. What I'm going to say on that is congratulations to Dyson Daniels. Awesome achievement. And keep up doing what he's doing. I need one more sip, and I'll get back to it. So, so like I said, Dyson Daniels is the youngest player to reach 200 career steals and pass Magic Johnson, which is a phenomenal accomplishment. So salute to Dyson Daniels. And now this segues perfectly into the next subject, because Dyson Daniels did that yesterday against my team, the 76ers. And now we switch gears. We're going to talk about my team, the 76ers. Last week, they broke the news. They're shut down Paul George for the season due to a complication of groin and hamstring injuries. So, that's going to give me something to talk about. And this is actually going to segue into one of my segments I want to do on the show, which is Rant of the Week. So we're going to take care of this. We'll kill two birds with one stone on this one. We'll talk about Paul George and tie this into the Rant of the Week. So Paul George has been shut down for the rest of the season. After a season constantly in and out of the lineup, he's out for the season. And this is where I'm going to rant about it, because the Sixers, we should have known this. Daryl Morey, when he decided to figuratively get in bed with Paul George, he had to know. He had to know that Paul George has this history of injuries. We can go through his career history of injuries. He's had what? I believe Mitch from the Pick and Roll podcast, one of my compadres on that show, which is now on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So shout out to my crew on the Pick and Roll podcast, still holding it down on Thursday nights now. Shout out to them. Mitch brought it up. He once researched Paul George's injury history, and he discovered that Paul George had, what was it again? If Mitch is in the chat, you can feel free to drop it in the chat. How many injuries was it that Paul George had in his career? He said it was at least 40 something. I'm thinking it was a lot higher than that, but he's had a ton of injuries. He's missed time repeatedly throughout his career, most notably in recent years during the failed Golden State Warriors experiment, and around 50. Yep. He said around 40, he said around 50. But that's still within the same range. Think about that. 50 career injuries. So we knew that this was a huge risk, bringing in a guy in his mid-30s, constantly missing time and paying him superstar money. And what's happened this season? To no surprise, he's missed time due to injuries. And now he's been shut down. And even when he did play, he was not that efficient. He's averaging about 16 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, which for role player numbers, those are decent, but that's not about what Paul George was brought in to do. He was brought in to be the leading force behind a championship team. And we see how that's worked out. Not even close to the goal line. They're not even in playoff contention at this point. Forget championship aspirations. Not to mention, alongside Embiid, Paul George has missed a ton of time due to injuries. And this is why I don't trust Daryl Morey. You came in, you brought in an injury-prone mid-30s guy to lead the team, to help lead the team, thinking this might be one of the guys that gets you to that next level. And the exact opposite happened. And not only that, but he hasn't really been as dedicated. What's he been doing in his time away from the court? He's been doing podcasts, which, look, nothing against that. Obviously, I'm doing podcasts. I'm on YouTube. So I'm not going to have anything against it. The problem is when you're a player and you're spending more time at the podcast table than you are on the court, obviously that's a problem right there. Major red flag in a player. And Paul George's inability to stay healthy, I'm over it. I'm over him being on the Sixers. I'm over his contract. At this point, let's face it, it's a worse contract than Tobias Harris, because at least Tobias Harris stepped on the court. Now, he wasn't the most efficient player in the world. Now, Tobias Harris, to his credit, though, he's a solid role player. He's been pretty solid with the Detroit Pistons this year. He's been a good role player. The problem with the Tobias Harris contract is they were trying to pay him star money when he was more suited as a role player. But at least with Tobias, he still showed up on the court and played. And sometimes he'd actually give you a good game. Now, we know it ended on poor terms with that no-point performance against the Knicks in that Game 6 last year in the opening round. But at least Tobias Harris contributed something during his time with the Sixers, even though it was longer than it should have been. He had some contributions. Paul George, what's his best contribution this season? I have to think about it for a second there. Trying to remember a game off the top of my head that he really was a difference maker. That stands out to me. And so far, I'm struggling to remember it, because for me this season, the highlights have been Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, who, when healthy, was making a case for Rookie of the Year before he got injured. Those are the main two pieces. Kelly Oubre has shined from time to time, but obviously he's not the franchise guy that's going to get you over the hump. And one of the guys you're expecting it to be has now been shut out for the season, along with your superstar center. This is just an accumulation of poor basketball operations by the 76ers, by Daryl Morey, and not just, this goes a little back with the Sixers, long before Daryl Morey, but in this case, we're talking about Daryl Morey. Terrible contract, since at the time, Mitch, he even said last year he wasn't a fan of it. He put, the day when Paul George stopped this podcast was the best game of the season. Right, yeah. Remember, we talked about this on Pick and Roll. We talked about this. Mitch, like you said, it was too late at that point. And ultimately, he was proven correct with George being shut out for the remainder of the season. So I'm over his contract at this point. This is a worse contract than Tobias Harris. Because at least with Tobias Harris, like I said, he did give us something. He disappointed based on the expectations of his contract, but at least Tobias produced something with that contract. Let's face it, even if Paul George tries to give the I was injured excuse, let's run it back next season, he's not getting any younger. His body isn't getting any more durable. So I'm over it. And I'm going to switch. All right, so that's all I got right now for the NBA. At this point, let's see, is there anything else? Oh, there's one more thing. Apparently, there is some news. Anthony Davis is expected. Maybe he might return tonight for the Mavs, but at this point, it's too late for them. Their season's a train wreck. They even fell out of playing contention, and the Phoenix Suns, who struggled and disappointed all season, are now in playing contention as the 10th seed as of today. Like I said, the Dallas Mavericks and San Antonio Spurs are the two most cursed teams this season. The Mavs, you lost your future superstar via trade. And that Kyrie Irving was shut down for the season. Anthony Davis, he might still play a little bit, but we're not even sure about that. And if he does, he could probably still produce when he's on the court. Just not sure how often he's going to show up for them. And the other one's the San Antonio Spurs, losing Wemby for the season, losing De'Aaron Fox, who you brought in to pair with Wemby for the future shortly afterward, out for the season. Big disappointment for them. But now we're going to switch gears a little bit, talk about the NFL. Now, there's not a lot of football to talk about this week. And obviously, now, as of today, March 24th, we are specifically 1 month away from the draft. So football fans, keep that in mind. I got 1 more month before the draft because it starts April 24th, runs through the 26th, Friday through Sunday. Thursday through Saturday. It's Thursday. So the 24th. So we're officially a month away from the NFL draft. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But now, for today, we're going to talk about first the New York Giants signing Jameis Winston. To me, there's not a whole lot to this, which tells you, number one, about the lack of big stories to talk about. But for Winston going to the Giants, this is clearly obvious what's going on. It's clearly he's there as a backup. They're looking to draft their guy for the future. We know Daniel Jones didn't pan out. Everyone knows Jameis Winston is not the long-term answer that's going to win you anything in the NFL. Sure, he might come in as a backup, have a game or two where he plays good, but he's not going to be the long-term answer for any team. That became apparent in 2019 with that 30-touchdown, 30-interception season with the Bucs, which led to him being booted for Tom Brady. Winston still is a respectable backup quarterback, and it's obvious the Giants are bringing him in to help with the young quarterbacks, to help mentor them and get them ready to be the next face of the franchise, whoever that may be. Because we all know the Giants tried with Daniel Jones and failed, so they needed a young quarterback. And we know Tommy DeVito, who is listed as the second stringer as of now, is not the long-term answer. So we'll just see what happens from there with the Giants. But as an Eagles fan, kind of confident that the Giants are going to screw it up. I mean, they keep giving us their former players. Can't do free agency or the draft right. I'm confident. And speaking of quarterbacks, we're going to close this one out. Talk a little bit about the Minnesota Vikings. So it was reported last week that the Vikings were offered trades for J.J. McCarthy. The Vikings turned it down. And as of now, this can shut down the rumors that the Minnesota Vikings are going to try to repeat history. And what I mean by repeat history is, remember, Brett Favre went from the Packers, had that season with the Jets, then went to the Vikings. So there was speculation the Vikings were going to try to do the same with Aaron Rodgers after his one season with the Jets. But obviously the Vikings said, no, we're not going to do that, which is the smart move by them. And like I said, I even said, I feel like them trying to give and go with J.J. McCarthy is the smart move in the long term. While Sam Darnold exceeded expectations last year, remember, though, a couple things. Number one, when it mattered most late in the season, what did the Vikings do? We all remember what they did week 18 against the Lions, wild card round against the Rams with Darnold as the quarterback. They choked. Sam Darnold went back to being his old self. So the Vikings knew right then and there, okay, obviously Sam Darnold isn't the long-term answer. He was a fill-in. He exceeded expectations. Thanks for helping us out this season. But they feel they're confident enough with Kevin O'Connell as the coach, and they're confident in the roster they have around them on both sides of the ball that, hey, if you get J.J. McCarthy in and he pans out, he could be the guy going forward. So that's a smart move right there by the Vikings. You know that Sam Darnold isn't the long-term answer. Take the chance on J.J. McCarthy coming back, see what he can do. And you know Aaron Rodgers, especially after a disappointing season with the Jets, isn't the long-term answer. You tried this once before years ago with Brett Favre. It didn't work out. Why try to recreate the same scenario when this go-around went worse than the first go-around, being Rodgers with the Jet versus Favre with the Jets? So smart move by the Vikings, deciding they're going to stick it out with their long-term guy. And that's all I got for you for this one, guys. I was going to stick around a little bit longer, but I went through all my main subjects, and plus, kind of have to go to the bathroom quick. So we're going to end it on this. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Mitch, Chad, everyone else that stopped by in the chat. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was a great start to your morning. If you haven't done so, please make sure to drop a like, subscribe on the Nikki Stees channel, and also sub up to the Hardcore Sports Network. If you haven't done so yet, we're always rocking with sports-related live streams, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, boxing, even pro wrestling for those that count it as a sport. So make sure to subscribe to the Hardcore Sports Network for more sports-related content, folks. That being said, have a great rest of your day. It's your boy Nikki Stees signing off. And I'll be back with some more videos throughout the week. So stay tuned and catch you next time. Peace.